Graphics in video games have always been considered a benchmark for quality. Well, it is the first thing that you see. Not the story, not the music, not the mechanics, but the graphics. We can have endless debates and arguments that the story or the gameplay is more important, but graphics can easily change your perception. Never judge a book by its cover, but we still do it subconsciously. Graphics have come a long way, from a few pixels moving across the screen to photorealistic games that are indistinguishable from real life. Some even look better. Photorealistic. That may not be the only way to describe the advancement of graphics over the years. There have been titles where the graphics had its own flair, its own unique visual style. It is not photorealistic, but it certainly catches your eyes with its different aesthetic. Developers are getting easier access to complex rendering techniques such as ray tracing. In the blink of an eye, we soon will have games with hyper photorealism. Games where you cannot differentiate if it's real life or made on a game engine. But what is the future? Where do graphics go when we achieve this technical wizardry? When we can go no further? Since the dawn of video games, developers and studios have longed for photorealistic graphics. The technology was limited, but it did not stop them from making real-life box art. And the game still seemed realistic. To me at least. But now we have games that surpass the quality of these photos. And we came here in just 30 years. Photorealistic games look like real life and have real-life physics, which makes them generally more immersive. Many pioneers in the early days tried to achieve a realistic atmosphere in their games. Astrobelt had pre-recorded footage with collision detection to simulate a real space fight, while Night Trap used full-motion video from VHS tape recordings to create an interactive puzzle. Digitized sprites was another brave attempt by devs, using actual photographs of real humans in different poses as in-game sprites. Myst, a graphics adventure puzzle game, showed the world how powerful pre-rendered graphics can be. It had 3D images that were modeled in StrataVision 3D. The result was a graphical miracle that could run on limited hardware. Everything changed with the advent of polygons. Going to the third dimension was now a possibility. Games like Quake and Doom paved the way for shooter games with somewhat realistic textures and physics simulation. Racing games had a far more flexibility in terms of graphics. Pre-rendered images for backdrops in the environment, realistic-looking car models and physics with no human to animate resulted in games like the Ridge Racer that took realism to the next level. With hardware acceleration, advanced 3D rendering capabilities, and computers and consoles getting dedicated graphical processing units, 3D became mainstream. A game's quality and year of release could now be judged based on its graphical prowess. New shading techniques and methods of texture mapping paved the way for real-life graphics. Photorealism was not a distant dream, but a reality. Some games used photogrammetry to produce real-life 3D renders of real locations by scanning them. Chernobylite, a science fiction horror survival currently in development, uses 3D scans. The devs went to the actual locations of the fatal nuclear zone, Chernobyl. Goes to show how far developers can go to make an immersive experience for their audience. We are currently in the middle of another graphical revolution, with ray tracing getting cheaper and cheaper and physics-based rendering being adopted by more and more game engines. True photorealism is not far away. But with great photorealism comes the greater uncanny valley. Uncanny valley was first described by Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori. The more he tried to achieve realistic features on his robots, the creepier they became. People describe a feeling of uneasiness, a sense of dread, when they see features that try to look realistic but are not actually humans. A lot of it comes down to the facial animations of a model. Weird and unknown facial features ring an alarm bell inside your brain, signaling that this thing is not real and it's trying its best to be. You need to know the entire anatomy of the face if you want to prevent this feeling. You need to know exactly which muscles twitch and contract when you smile, laugh, or get angry. You need to get the eye expressions right. Every minor detail should be correct. Senua's Sacrifice and Last of Us use similar 3D mapping techniques to make real-time animations of different facial expressions directly from the face of the actors. Uncanny Valley is a well-documented phenomenon. Many movies and video games took a leap of faith but could not cross the valley. There is a reason why big studios like Disney and Pixar go for more unrealistic looking models with exaggerated features to not look creepy. Final Fantasy, even though with all the hype surrounding its release as one of the first movies to be entirely made of CG characters, left its audience in a state of perplexion, a state of unease with its less than expressive facial animations and models. Recent titles like Mass Effect Andromeda was subjected to heavy criticism due to the exact same thing. Photorealism is a daunting task, especially if you're a small team. It's a complex and expensive procedure. You need the lighting to be right, the textures to be high quality, the movement fluid, the models properly animated. Everything needs to be as close to perfection as possible. Photorealistic games also require higher hardware configurations to run smoothly. PlayerUnknown's Battleground was known for its bugs and poor frame rates for a long time. Out comes Fortnite with its cartoonish graphics and the ability to run on lower specifications, reaching out to a wider audience, and it steals the Battle Royale title from its originator. Achieving realism is quite possible, but is it the only way to move forward? What about other art styles? Stylized graphics in video games often corresponds to a cartoonish art style that is far from being photorealistic. It uses simplified models, a fixed, often limited color palette, and less focus on rendering details. The first use of stylized graphics is attributed to Jet Set Radio. This art style is often referred to as cel shading. Every object is given distinct black outlines and a cartoonish color palette. Minecraft uses a rather minimalistic approach to stylization. Its 3D world is inspired from decades-old pixel art style. There isn't much focus on details, but it is appealing in its own way and has its own unique charm. Firewatch features a more over-exaggerated style. Its color palette is similar to what you will see on a national park poster. It also puts emphasis on the environmental details. All of these games look unique in their own way. Uniqueness is what sets stylization apart from photorealism. Photorealistic graphics at one point will always look the same. This restricts the imagination of an artist, but with stylization, you can give your game its own unique flair, its own charm, its own identity. Stylized graphics also tend to age well. Team Fortress 2, released in 2007, still stands the test of time, while other titles like Half-Life 2 do not. Stylization also gives you freedom to work on less powerful hardware. Mobile game developers have taken stylized graphics to heart and created some wonderful looking games. With the rise of the indie game market, stylization also saw a major bump. Small studios, without the resources needed to develop photorealistic games, instead showed their creativity in other art forms. Some went back in time, while others created their own new art style. Stylized graphics are thought to have a less immersive experience than photorealism, but many games have proven this wrong time and again. Stylization and photorealism are at odds with each other. Two polar opposite art forms. But what happens when these poles meet? What happens when you get stylization with a touch of realism? You get the best of both worlds. You get stylized realism. This hybrid art style combines the best of photorealism and stylization and creates a unique blend. The characters are usually given a more cartoony feel, while the textures and materials used are often photorealistic. Looking at a game that fuses realism with stylization, you can pinpoint how and where it shines. Games like Darksiders, Overwatch and Bioshock Infinite use this blend gracefully. Their characters feel real, but at the same time, they also have an unrealistic artificial appeal to them. Stylized realism is an effective way to counter the uncanny valley without sacrificing the realistic aspects of the game. We have photorealism, stylization, even stylized realism. But where do we go from here? What comes after we achieve true photorealism, when computers become powerful enough to emulate real-life physics? Will artists come up with a completely new art form? Will they regress, going back to their roots? Or will we see something that we never thought possible? If you look at the history of painting, art followed a similar trend. Painters from the Renaissance period had already achieved photorealism in their art. They had created the photographs of their time. But art evolved. It evolved into something no one could predict. Artists came with their own art styles, their own style of painting, their own medium, their own theme, their own flair. They created their own genre, differentiating themselves from everyone else and creating something spectacular. Video games are art. the highest form of art, as some believe, including me. Art develops, it evolves, it changes. Video games will also evolve, they will change. Maybe virtual reality is the next step in video game evolution. Art is based on emotion, how it can drag you into its depths, preventing you to leave, to go back into the real world. What better way to improve the level of immersion by going inside a video game? Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more upcoming videos on game design and development. Until next time.